The first monsters of Earth were not dinosaurs. They were deformed, gigantic creatures. Born to survive. Every living thing had to hunt, flee, or disappear. Don't forget to tell us where you're joining us from on this journey today. Before the dinosaurs, it was the era of the first monsters.
The Carboniferous was not a peaceful world.
$350 million years ago, warm, humid swamps covered the planet.
A place where nature fed the first monsters. Just to see which species would manage to survive until the end.
The rival this time is the Protorogyrinus, a primitive amphibian.
Almost 2 meters long.
It relied on its sharp jaws and agility to survive in this deadly zone. It was dangerous enough to become a predator. At least until it entered the territory of the Rizodus. A monster covered in scales, up to 7 meters long.
It was already waiting for it.
Its 20-centimeter fangs plunged directly into the flesh of the Protorogyrinus.
Before it could react,
a single tail whip from the Rizodus.
and blood stained the dark waters red.
If you had seen Earth from orbit at that time, you probably wouldn't have recognized this planet. Most of the land was uniting into a single giant supercontinent. Pangaea.
Around it, ancient oceans stretched.
The largest was Panthalassa. The marine currents constantly crashed against the primitive coasts, bringing moisture, sediments, and life. But Pangaea was not a uniform world. The further you went inland, the further away the oceans seemed.
The air was drier.
And temperatures varied extremely. Rocky deserts and arid plains stretched for thousands of kilometers. That's why life was mainly concentrated near the equator and the coasts.
There, huge swamp forests covered the surface,
full of giant lycopods, horsetails, and ferns.
It was that environment that allowed the appearance of an extraordinary phenomenon. Insects larger than many current animals.
Prehistoric dragonflies, giant millipedes, scorpions.
All grew to unbelievable sizes. The symbol of the skies in this era was the Meganeura.
It had been patrolling the air for half an hour.
Its best tool in every hunt was its compound eyes.
Extremely sensitive to any movement below it.
and a single oversight would have a fatal price. The Meganeura's abilities began to become evident.
When the distance was short enough, it would dive at high speed.
Holding the prey as if they were iron hooks. In a matter of seconds, the victim's exoskeleton was crushed by its powerful jaws.
Although it looked like a modern dragonfly, the Meganeura actually belonged to an ancient, extinct group of griffin flies. Its body was larger and more robust, but in return, it was probably less agile to change direction suddenly. That made the Meganeura ideal for open spaces, like riverbanks, large swamps, or over the canopies of ancient forests. Its prey could be other flying insects. And even small animals that lived around the swamps.
And in the sky, very few creatures were capable of challenging it.
Its size gave it a clear advantage as a predator.
But it also implied a huge expenditure of energy. Every flight consumed large quantities of oxygen.
Some hypotheses suggest it had to rest constantly between flights to recover its muscles and reoxygenate.
For about 6 million years, the Meganeura made the skies its absolute stage. Fossil footprints of the Arthropleura indicate it could exceed 2.5 meters in length.
It measured around 50 centimeters wide and could weigh almost 100 kilograms.
It was the largest arthropod that ever existed. For more than a century, this creature remained a mystery to science.
The reason was very simple.
Most of the fossils found were just molted exoskeletons, without heads.
Until recently, a discovery in France changed everything. Two exceptionally preserved juvenile specimens revealed the head of the Arthropleura for the first time. It was round and low. Two long antennae extended forward, and two eyes protruded from the sides of its head, like modern crabs.
Underneath was a small but powerful mandible, a strange mix between a millipede and a centipede. Despite its terrifying appearance, it was probably not a predator. The most recent studies suggest that the Arthropleura fed mainly on decaying leaves, rotten wood, and dead plants from the... In other words, it could have been the cow of the ancient arthropod world. A gigantic body required enormous amounts of food every day. Luckily for it, during the Carboniferous, it had almost no competition.
Vertebrates were just beginning to experiment with life on land. Many species still depended on water, and true reptiles had not yet appeared. At that time, the Carboniferous swamp forests were practically the golden age of arthropods.
And the Arthropleura was one of the most benefited creatures of that era.
A giant Arthropleura, almost harmless.
That was lucky for the Carboniferous ecosystem, because not all arthropods were peaceful.
Hidden beneath those swampy forests was the Pulmonoscorpius, a true hunter.
It was not as big as the Arthropleura. It measured barely 70 centimeters long. But for a Carboniferous scorpion, it was already an impressive size. Unlike the giant millipedes that constantly roamed looking for food, the Pulmonoscorpius was probably an ambush predator.
Like modern scorpions, it probably didn't rely too much on sight.
The ultra-sensitive sensory hairs on its legs could detect movements. Every small vibration could be the signal of prey or of danger approaching. At the front, It had large pincers to hold its target.
And behind, a curved tail laden with venom.
Just one sting in the right place was enough to end the chase almost instantly.
Today, all that remains of it are crushed exoskeletons within ancient rocks from Scotland.
But that is already enough to demonstrate that, long before the era of dinosaurs, the first forests of Earth were already full of arthropod killers.
So, what else turned the Carboniferous into the era of monsters?
Perhaps the answer lies in their own bodies. While the larger an insect was, the thicker its exoskeleton had to be to support its weight. That armor was very efficient, but also extremely heavy. And at a certain point, the cost of size began to outweigh its advantages. Another hypothesis is related to the ecosystem. During the Carboniferous, there were almost no true flying predators.
The skies were still practically empty.
There were no birds, no flying reptiles, nor aerial rivals like those that would appear in later eras. And for you, what do you think was the most important factor that allowed the creatures of that era to reach such enormous sizes? Oxygen, the ecosystem, the structure of their bodies, or some other reason? Share your opinion in the comments. And now, let's go back to the journey, because this was not yet the strangest thing about the ancient world.
Most of life had made its first experiments at the bottom of the oceans. Long before, even before the Carboniferous.
The most successful creature of this was the Anomalocaris. Describing it is not easy. Some call it the killer shrimp. But even that name is not entirely correct.
It had no relation whatsoever to modern shrimp.
The largest specimens could measure almost a meter.
It may not sound impressive today, but in the Cambrian oceans, it was a true super predator.
Along its body, it had a series of soft fins that undulated constantly to propel it through the water. At the front of its body, two long, spiny appendages moved constantly, ready to catch any prey.
But the most terrifying was its biological radar. Each eye had at least 16,000 individual lenses.
Several times more than the eyes of a modern fly, turning it into one of the most advanced visual systems of the Cambrian. And in the center of its head, there was something even stranger. a circular mouth called a mouth cone. Toothed plates organized in a symmetrical spiral that would close as the prey struggled desperately. For many years, it was believed that the Anomalocaris crushed any creature in the ocean.
But recent research shows a much more complex story.
Its capturing appendages do not show wear from breaking hard shells, suggesting that it probably hunted mainly soft-bodied animals. Even so, that didn't make it any less dangerous. Once the prey was caught, the Anomalocaris could hold it with its circular mouth,
and then violently shake the victim's body with its front appendages.
A torsional force would break the chitin joints. The shell would open, and the soft tissues inside would immediately become food. In the Cambrian seas, the Anomalocaris was an early sign of evolution's arms race.
Predators began to become more lethal, and prey was forced to develop armor and defenses.
Despite its size and great capacity for adaptation, the Anomalocaris disappeared at the end of the Cambrian.
They went extinct, but their legacy continued.
Because shortly after, the Paleozoic oceans would enter a new stage.
The era of giant sea scorpions.
At the head were the Eurypterids, the gigantic sea scorpions of the Paleozoic. In reality, these predatory arthropods were not true scorpions. But they received that name for their long, spiny tails, their specialized appendages for gathering sustenance,
and because they were absolutely terrifying. They appeared about 470 million years ago,
and survived for more than 200 million years, more time even than the reign of the dinosaurs.
Some species were as small as a human hand, while others became true monsters.
Jackalopeus, the largest known species, could reach 2.5 meters in length, as big as a modern marine crocodile. Fossils show that the Eurypterids not only crawled across the seabed, but were active predators.
Their forward-facing eyes helped them locate prey in murky waters.
Their enormous pincers worked like living hooks, strong enough to hold primitive fish, trilobites, and other arthropods. Many preserved fossils show impact marks and bites in the armor of ancient fish, proof that the Paleozoic seas were true battlefields. During the Silurian and Devonian periods, the Eurypterids expanded across the oceans. Some advanced into inland swamps to avoid competition, and certain species even tried to briefly come out onto dry land. But the world was changing. The supremacy of arthropods in the oceans began to be challenged with the arrival of enormous armored fish. About 360 million years ago, the great dominator of ancient waters was the Dunkleosteus. Its name sounds almost clumsy, so much so that many paleontologists simply call it the dunk. But don't be fooled. It was not an adorable creature. It was a true nightmare. For decades, scientists only knew the Dunkleosteus by its armored head, because most of its body was made of cartilage.
But what turned the Dunkleosteus into a legend was its jaw.
It had no true teeth. Instead, it possessed sharp, bony plates like knives, which self-sharpened after each bite. And that bite was brutally powerful. It could exceed 7,000 newtons, stronger than a lion, a black bear, or a modern hyena.